Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a video for the hometown crowd here in Washington State. I was asked by none other than Julie Barrett from the Conservative Ladies of Washington if I could go through every piece of legislation that is kicking around Olympia this year and kind of rank it from least worst to absolute worst. Notice I didn't say from good to worst. I actually said from least worst to worst because that's what we're dealing with here. And I've done that. I have them all right here. We're going to take them in order from the least terrible to the absolutely most terrible so that you guys can understand. And we want you to understand this because we realize that they are coming at us fast and furious. Some of you want to get involved. You might not have the opportunity to get involved in every single one of these bills. So find the ones that matter to you. Let's start focusing our attention on the bills that really matter to us so we can at least try to make a difference and stop some of this insanity. So today, let's talk about the bad, the ugly, and the unconstitutional, ranking Washington's new gun bills. Okay, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, proud to announce that the video is being brought to you by Washington Gun Law and the Conservative Ladies of Washington, reminding you that Saturday, February 3rd at 6 o'clock, we'll be doing a 1-hour live stream from Security Gun Club. We got Dan Mitchell from Sporting Systems. We got Senator Linda Wilson. We got a member of law enforcement. But most importantly, we want you to join us there at the Gun Club and be part of the live audience. So remember, Security Gun Club, located right here in Woodinville. It's going to be Saturday, February 3rd, 6 to 7. Me and Julie Barrett. I hope you guys can stop on by. We hope to see you then. Okay, so this is the exercise today. I have grabbed all of the bills that are kicking around. Now, some of them have companion bills, so I'll give equal numbers. What I have done is I am going to rank them from, well, what's just kind of a mild slap in the face all the way up to what's a complete knee to the groin. And I want you to understand that this is in some ways kind of like ranking, what's your favorite dental surgeries here, okay? So I'm going to go through them. We're going to start with the one that I'm least concerned about all the way up to the one that I am most concerned about. You guys may agree or disagree. Hey, that's fine. Everyone has their own interests. I'd love to hear what you think down below. But obviously, if you feel really passionate about one of these bills, then that's the one you need to get in the fight on. Okay, here we go. Here's a piece of legislation that if I was giving a letter grade, I'd actually give it an A. Not an A+, because there is no such thing as an A+. But Senate Bill 5049, which we did this video about already, is actually a piece of legislation that would really, really address some of our violence problems in the state. It's been kicking around for over a year now. It hasn't seen the committee. Haven't really even seen the light of day. It probably is going nowhere. That's because it was a good piece of legislation. So yeah, that one stands out in a crowd of turds here. 5049, Senate Bill 5049. Candidly, I think a lot of you should be calling your legislators and telling them, hey, what's the deal? Why are you guys not advancing Senate Bill 5049? It's ridiculous. Everyone needs to get behind that. Okay. Then we got House Bill 2021. This deals with some provisions of gun buybacks. Now, you may think that gun buybacks is the biggest waste of time and money, and there may be a lot of truth to that. What this does is it allows for essentially certain types of guns that end up in buybacks that are relics and things like that to be given to museums and things like that. Everything else has to be destroyed. However, it also provides for law enforcement to run background checks, and if the firearms turn up as stolen, to try to return them to the rightful owners. It is sponsored by a bunch of people who usually get me pretty worried about this, but this piece of legislation I don't think is going to garner a lot of attention from us on the channel. It is House Bill 2021. Again, everything will be linked up down below so you can geek out on it. Maybe you see something I'm missing. If you do, please let me know. Okay, now, House Bill 1903, so we're kind of moving up. This one's a little bit worse. This, of course, is sponsored by Liz Berry and a cast of others, so you immediately start freaking out here. What this does is it creates a new civil infraction for failing to report a firearm as stolen. Now, candidly, I think lawful and responsible gun ownership would always mandate that you report your firearm stolen as soon as you learn of it. There's some concerns with this bill because you need to be able to report all things, including the serial number. I know a lot of gun owners that would not be capable of doing that. I think it's ridiculous because the state of Washington would have every firearm you ever purchased as a Washington resident already on records. Yes, there is a Washington State gun registry. Trust me, there is. Okay, now, this is a bill we haven't talked about much this year because it's a carryover bill from last year, and it's Senate Bill 5444. And what this is it creates a whole new slew of sensitive places. Now, we know how well that's working for California right now in the matter of Reno May v. Bonta and the challenge to all the new sensitive places in Senate Bill 2. 5444 does not go nearly as far as what Senate Bill 2 in California did this year. I mean, you can see what we'll probably be dealing with next year. But what this does do is it creates new gun-free zones, essentially, libraries, because we've got a huge gun violence problem in libraries, zoos and aquariums, park facilities, youth facilities, playgrounds, sports courts, facilities, things like that. Transit stations, which I gotta be honest with you, especially if you live in the Puget Sound region, if you're going into a transit station and you're not armed, you're out of your mind, okay? And then it would allow state, local, county buildings and all things like that to become gun-free zones as well. Again, I don't like gun-free zones, especially when you consider that about 98% of all mass shootings shockingly take place in a gun-free zone, probably because, you know, you're not getting armed resistance. So that is, once again, that is 5444, Senate Bills 5444. Again, it could be a lot worse than that. Now, let's start getting to some of the really terrible legislation. Okay, House Bill 1902. Many of you recall we did this video right here. It was about the watered-down version of 1143 that was passed, which requires all of us to get a safety class. You can find that in the description box down below as well. Thank you, Sporting Systems. And this was all of the live fire training and all of this stuff that was pulled out. So what this creates is an actual license to purchase requirement. I say that again, a license to purchase requirement that will require you to do live fire training before you can obtain that license. Put other ways, you have to demonstrate proficiency and get government's permission before you can exercise a constitutional right. This piece of legislation is ranking very high on this because, one, it's sponsored by Liz Berry, so it's cut and pasted from somewhere else. But there are already two cases, Maryland Shall Issue v. Moore and Arnold v. Kotek. One out of Maryland, obviously, the other one right down the street in Oregon, where this exact legislative scheme has been ruled unconstitutional. And by the way, that ruling took place a while ago, and you have not seen an injunction on that ruling by either of the two higher courts in that. Something to be aware of. Also, something to be aware of, there are two Senate companion bills that are basically mirroring this language, so you also got to watch out for Senate Bill 5211 as well as Senate Bill 6004. This is a very, very offensive piece of legislation. And by the way, what does this do for women who are being stalked by an ex-boyfriend or something like that? They got to go jump through all these hoops before they could possibly defend themselves. Oh, they could just call the police. Yeah, well, they live in Seattle, so when they call 911, unfortunately, no one's coming. That's not a knock on the Seattle Police Department, by the way. That's a knock on the city of Seattle and its leadership. Okay, moving up. Yeah, we still got a ways to go, and we're already talking about terrible legislation. Here we go. 2238, the ammunition tax. Need I say more? It's an 11% tax on ammunition. Now, this is probably going to be one of the easiest ones to challenge because old Representative Berry again referred to the ability to obtain ammunition as a privilege. Of course, it is necessary in order to actually ensure that you have the right to keep and bear arms. So they've set themselves up. This is just absolutely just another way to make arming yourself virtually impossible, cost prohibitive for many. Obviously, this will destroy your online ammunition sales and things like that. It's highly, highly questionable. But again, this is going to be challenged not so much on Second Amendment grounds. Let me remind you that in the city of Tacoma, this was upheld by the Washington State Supreme Court. So that one's got me a little bit worried. Now, the absolute dumbest piece of legislation, of course, is House Bill 2054, because if someone could tell me at all how this might possibly save one life, I would love to hear it. This is you can only purchase one firearm every 30 days. It is a quota on your rights. It's like having the right to go to church, but only one Sunday. It's like the right to be free from unreasonable government searches and seizures, but only on the weekends. I mean, this is absolutely pure insanity. That is House Bill 2054. Oh, we still got two to go. Oh my God, can you believe it? Yeah, House Bill 2118. I already did this video on that one, okay? This is straight out of George Orwell's 1984. This requires 24-hour, 7-day-a-week video surveillance of all certain locations. It requires FFLs to completely retrofit their building. I haven't even gotten into the second half of this. It requires all of this video to be stored by the FFL for as long as 6 years, thus requiring servers that might actually require to have a server room, okay? You're talking about the type of storage that what Amazon is doing, okay? All of that, and let us remember, there's no exemption for home-based FFLs, okay? Which means what this bill is doing is actually mandating 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 days a year video surveillance inside a person's home because they've chosen to be an FFL, a home-based FFL. I'm not joking. That is House Bill 2118. Now you sit there and go, well, that's absolutely got to be the worst one, isn't it? No, actually, this is the one I'm ranking as the worst. And I will tell you this, Washington, every time I've done a video about this topic, y'all blow it off. Okay, and I want you to all remember I told you this because this has always been the most dangerous piece of gun control legislation that's kicking around in this 2-year cycle, and it is House Bill 1178. House Bill 1178 does away with state preemption. It allows municipalities, counties, and all of that to make their own gun laws. What it means is that you will essentially, instead of being challenging the state all the time, you will be challenging counties and cities and everything. And you will end up with a complete tapestry of gun laws, which will be virtually impossible to follow. The channel here won't even be able to keep up on it. I'm really excited to do a video about, hey, let's go over the concealed carry laws of a Southern county here, okay? And that's literally what this state would turn into. And for those of us that live in the Puget Sound region, and you know a lot about your local leadership, do you really, really want them writing gun laws? So I am still call to arms on House Bill 1178. This is the bill that will absolutely, it should be called the Attorney Full Employment Act of 2024 is what it should be called, because Washington Gun Law, Silent Majority Foundation, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, everyone's going to have to hire more attorneys in this state because we're going to literally quadruple the number of lawsuits and challenges we will have. So that is Washington Gun Law's opinion on the bills, okay? Now, you may have your own opinion. You may have questions. Listen, all the bills, we're going to link up down below so that you guys can geek out on them for yourself. Hope to see all of you February 3rd, 6 o'clock, Security Gun Club, along with the conservative ladies of Washington. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of your Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is also down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, let's remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.